Hackle here.
Barnaby Tucker here.
Benjamin Carter. Thomas Wilson.
My pleasure, gentlemen. Now, what can I do for you?
You see, we're
word
two
hats,
ladies about
really
town
pro
looking for
ladies
hats to
to
Malloy,
Malloy
and we
with.
wondered, we want a hat. For a lady, of course. And everybody said to go to Mrs. Malloy's because she's so pretty. I mean, her hats are so pretty.
And so reasonable. As reasonable as under $1. That'll leave us enough to see the whale.
Gotta pay them no mind, ma'am. They've come all the way from Yonkers to see the stuffed whale at Barnum's Museum, and they're all excited. Just keep an eye on that street, Barnaby, and maybe you'll see it pass by.
Is it big and black and mean little red eyes?
Yes.
Sitting on that bench.
Excuse me, but did you say Yonkers, Mr. Hackle?
Yes, ma'am, and forgive me for saying this, but you should really see Yonkers. And by that I mean Mr. Malloy would love to see Yonkers as well.
Oh, I'm a widow, Mr. Hackle.
Oh, you are? Barnaby, she's a widow. Oh, that's too bad. I'm sure Mr. Malloy would have loved to see Yonkers in that hat. I mean on you, of course. You're Catholic, aren't you? Well, don't let that worry you. I'd be willing to change. If you ever happen to have a Sunday free in the near future, I'd be willing to show you Yonkers from top to bottom.
Well, as a matter of fact, Mr. Hackle, I might be there sooner than you think.
You will?
You see, I have a friend who lives in Yonkers.
You do?
You might even know him.
Perhaps I do.
Oh, it's always silly to ask in cases like this, isn't it? It's a Mr. Vandegelder.
Horace Vandegelder.
Of Vandergelder's Hay and Feed?
Do you know him?
Oh, no.
Mr. Vandegelder's a substantial man, and well-liked, they tell me.
Has only one fault as far as I know. He's hard as nails.
Cornelius. I think. Cornelius.
Now, I wonder if your friend might like this one.
Begging your pardon, Mrs. Malloy.
Gentlemen, what are you doing?
Help us, Mrs. Malloy. We'll explain later.
Mrs. Malloy, what's with all the racket?
Really, gentlemen, I insist that you come out of there this minute, or I'll be forced to... Mr. Vandegelder.
Mrs. Malloy, I don't suppose Mrs. Levi is here. Levi is here, is she? She was supposed to meet me on that bench 10 minutes ago. Well, she can just come looking for me if she comes. When I make an appointment, I expect people to be on time. Here's a present for you. Chocolate-covered peanuts, unshelled. That's the expensive kind. Did I just see you speaking with some men?
Men, Mr. Vandegelder? What would men be doing in a lady's hat shop? Now, let's go into my workroom, shall we? I'm so anxious for you to see it.
I saw it last week.
So you did. Well, Mr. Vandegelder, what's new in the hay and feed business? I hear you have 4 friends, all hard as nails. I mean,
What on earth are you talking about?
Yonkers. I hear it's a beautiful city.
And who has been telling you about Yonkers, may I ask?
Nobody, a friend.
What friend?
Well, you see,
He?
a customer, Mr. Vandegelder. Someone quite well-to-do, as a matter of fact. You might even know him, although it's usually silly to ask in cases like this. It's a Mr. Cornelius Hackle.
Did you say Hackle?
Why, yes.
He's only my chief clerk, that's all. Mrs. Malloy, I demand an explanation.
And I'm going to give it to you. Why shouldn't she know Cornelius Hackle? Everyone in New York knows Cornelius Hackle. Why, he's here at the opera and all the fashionable homes. You know he's at the Harmonium Gardens restaurant 3 or 4 times a week?
Impossible. He only has $146.35, and I keep it in my own safe.
Oh, Mr. Vandegelder, you're killing me. He's one of the Hackles. They built the canal.
What canal?
The
Panama.
ferry. Both.
It ain't the same man.
Who took the horses out of Jeannie Lynn's carriage and pulled her through the streets? Cornelius Hackle. And who dressed up as a waiter at the Fifth Avenue Hotel and dropped an oyster right down Mrs. Astor's? Oh, I can't say it. But it was Cornelius. He's the playboy of New York. Why, Irene, darling, don't deny it. I can tell you were taken with him just like everyone else.
Really, Dolly, I don't know what you're saying. I've only met him once in my life. Really, Dolly.
Excuse me.
Of course. Minnie, hold your tongue.
Now see here, if there's a man in that closet.
This is too dangerous.
No man who hides in ladies' closets can frighten me. Now stand
No,
aside.
man, indeed. I'm sure you'd make short work of any man. Those muscles, I can see them rippling underneath your coat now. Ripple, ripple, back and forth.
For the last time, will you stand aside?
Stand indeed, Mr. Vandegelder. That's exactly what the court will want to know once you're accused of entering that closet without a search warrant. So as you can see, there can't possibly be 4 men in this closet.
Achoo!
God bless you.
Mrs. Malloy.
All right, Mr. Van de Gelder, there is a man in that closet.
Aha!
4 to be exact.
What the devil?
There also happens to be a perfectly logical explanation, but for the present, good afternoon.
Good Lord, the whole room's crawling with men. Irene, darling, congratulations. I'll never get over it. I take it I'll see you later this afternoon, Mr. Van de Gelder.
You certainly will, Mrs. Levi. Good day, Mrs. Malloy.
Mrs. Malloy, I can explain everything you see. Mrs. Malloy, I can explain everything.
I do not wish to hear any explanations, Mr. Hackle. Just you and your friends do me the pleasure of leaving my shop this instant, or I shall send for Officer Gagardi.
If you ask me, Irene, calling an officer's letting them off too easy. The law courts, and that's where they belong. I've been adding up the offenses these 4 have committed, and believe me, you've got grounds for at least 2 writs, a non-compos mentis, and a garnishee. The thing to do is to show that you tried to settle it amicably first. Have dinner with them.
Dinner?
Dinner?
Is that really necessary, Dolly?
That's the way things are done in the law, Irene. Dinner first, garnishee after.
Well, if it must be. Gentlemen, you may take us to dinner.
I speak for Barnaby as well. Now I hear there's a really nice restaurant down by the railroad station.
Oh no, Mr. Hackle. If the Harmonia Gardens is good enough for your fashionable friends, it'll be good enough for us. I hear they have a lovely orchestra there, Minnie.
Oh, we couldn't go there. Don't misunderstand me. It's not about the money or anything. It's the whale. It's not the whale, Barnaby. It's the dancing. You see, they have exhibitions and even contests in a place like that. It take me weeks, months, years to learn. Mrs. Dolly Levi, 33-year-old chief clerks, taught how to dance.
No, it's simple. You just put one arm here and one arm here.
It's absolutely no use. I have no sense of rhythm.
Absolutely no sense of rhythm is one of the primary requirements for learning by the Levi Gallagher method. Just give me 5 minutes of your time, Mr. Hackle. I'll have you dancing in the streets. I think we'll start with lesson 7. We'll take turn. It's simple. Right foot touch, left foot touch, under back round touch, release, unfurl. That's wonderful, Mr. Hackle. When I think of the lucky woman who'll find heaven in your arms. Let's go back to lesson 1, shall we?